What credit score do you need to buy a house? What's the average? Is it possible to buy a house with bad credit? Do you even need credit? Well, all of those questions answered and more coming right up. But before we begin, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell because I post cool stuff like this each and every week and you don't want to miss it. Let's go. Hi, my name is Matt Theriault, CEO of Epic Real Estate, and this is where we show people how to invest in real estate with an emphasis on retiring early. And to make that happen, you're gonna need four things. You're gonna need knowledge, time, money, and credit. The knowledge, that's readily available in the world that we live in right now. Other people's time and money, those can be easily leveraged. But when it comes to your credit score, what do you need to buy a house? It's a common question and an important one. As for most people, buying a house is the most expensive investment they'll ever make. And most people don't make enough to save enough to pay cash, nor should they really want to. It's another subject for another time. But most people will borrow money to buy houses. And whether someone will lend that money to you will greatly depend on your credit score, which determines your lendability. So your credit score, whether you have poor credit or excellent credit, can also affect your interest rate, which in turn affects your monthly payments. And there are other variables like the loan type, the location of the property, and the lender themselves that come into play when using your credit score to leverage a bank's money to buy a house. So a one-size-fits-all answer isn't really possible. But if you do for me the very small favor of just smashing that like button, I'll do for you my very best and waste no time getting to the answer to the question, what credit score do you need to buy a house? So to qualify for a Federal Housing Administration loan, an FHA loan, here are the general credit score requirements needed. The minimum credit score is 500. However, you'll need a down payment of at least 10% if you are at 500, between 500 and 579. If you have a score of 580 or better, you can purchase the same house for a down payment of just 3.5%. So if your credit score is low, not all is lost, but you can see how a good credit score definitely has its benefits. Now, if you're looking to purchase a house of $765,000 or greater, this is called a jumbo loan, and a credit score of at least 680 is needed. For a private loan as opposed to an FHA loan, a credit score of 650 or higher is needed. If your credit score is currently within the required range, then you can get started on the mortgage application process ASAP. Before officially applying for a home loan, however, make sure you compare mortgage rates with multiple sources. You see, your credit score is an asset to you, of which makes you very valuable to lenders, and they will compete for the privilege to lend you their money. So shop around. So what do you do if your credit score is low? Well, I've got two options for you. If your credit score is below a 600, it is well within the realm of possibility to get a home loan, but it may be difficult. And if your credit score is below 500, then it's pretty safe to say that you will not qualify for a bank loan at all. But you have options. Option number one, improve your credit score. It's your payment history and credit usage that make up most of your score. So start there for maximum impact. Then it's your mix of credit, the amount of debt that you're carrying, and the length of your credit history also count, but are secondary. Now be prepared, it can take months for your credit score to reflect any work that you may do in these areas, and even years depending on any derogatory marks that are on your credit report. But you may not have to wait at all, and that brings me to option number two, just bypass the banks and forget your credit score altogether. This is a common option for people with good credit scores too. I mean, if you can skip dealing with a bank and their rigid guidelines, why wouldn't you, regardless of what your credit score is? For example, when the music stores disappeared, so did my music business. And consequently, so did my 7-figure income. Now the wife, she didn't appreciate that, so she took off for greener pastures and she left me with her debts. Wasn't that nice of her? In addition to all of my business debts. So I had no other option than to file bankruptcy in 2001. And it's probably needless to say what a bankruptcy does to your credit score. It pretty much renders it useless for the next 7 years or so. Now, I'm happy to say my score has fully recovered and banks are lending to me again. But during that time, while I was waiting for my credit score to recover, I was still able to amass a small empire of income properties by tapping into two little-known sources of money, private money and seller financing. These are the two places that I teach my private clients to access other people's money to buy their investment properties. And as it works for investment properties, it too will work for buying your own home. My good friend Joe McCall purchased his home using something called a lease option. And I'm in the middle of doing the same thing using seller financing. Now, it takes a little bit more work, a little bit more know-how, but totally possible, and with a little bit of persistence, probable. If you'd like to go a little deeper to see how Joe and I did this, not to mention private clients of mine like Parker, Chris, Nathan, Daniel, Maura, Tony and Cindy, Mackenzie, Ryan and Emily, and so many others, I'd be happy to give you the free cheat sheets that I gave them to get started buying real estate with creative financing. You can pick up your own copies at epicbreakthrough.com for free. Share with me below what you liked best about what you just heard, and who do you know who's in the market for their next property that might also find this useful. When their name comes to mind, please share it with them. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.